here's the shit talking I'll do. All these other guys are painting their cars. We're so proud of the craftsmanship that goes into the metalwork of our cars. We're bringing our car to Barrett Jackson and bare metal.
No! Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Slow Smoke Business Show. I'm so excited about this episode. We've got award-winning car builder Troy Gudgel on the show, my friend. You've probably seen him on the internet. You've probably seen his hot cars around if you follow the hot rod world at all. Troy, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to be on this thing with you.
Look, we're honored to have you here. Only in like special guests, I will pour a nice little whiskey here. So here's to Troy and all the stuff he's going to make me feel inadequate as a man by when he tells me about all the cool cars he's doing. Here's to you. There you go, sir.
What are you drinking there? What are we drinking?
Ooh, so this is Kentucky Owl.
Okay.
Actually, it's when I do decanters, it's either the best stuff I have or it's a mixture of the worst stuff I have. And this is one of the best, right? I have like a forever decanter that I'll pour a lot of like whiskeys that are okay. And so when somebody like asks for like, oh, just give me a whiskey and Coke, I'll pour it out of that decanter that's like just a mixture of sort of whatever ones.
There you go.
So today we are doing country style pork ribs, which are a country po-folk staple. Have you ever done a country style pork rib before? Actually, let me ask, Troy, do you do much grilling ever?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got, same style pellet grill you have. Mine's a Traeger though.
Come on.
So yeah, I do quite a bit.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Yeah, exactly.
So these are country style pork ribs, and what we have here is it's actually not a rib. There's no bone in it. It's actually parts of the shoulder, and they cut them up into strips. You might even get the McRib from this setup, actually, but it's a boneless piece of pork. I'm heavily seasoning it, which I love to do. I like things that have got some serious flavor. I'm going with my favorite sweet pecan rub from the as yet not on the show, as yet not a sponsor, Meat Church, who I love. And so we're going to put these things on there. They're not going to take long to cook, I don't think. And I'm going to glaze them too, which I haven't. I've been doing that a lot. If you're going chronologically in the episodes, you probably notice all of a sudden this guy started glazing when he hasn't done that at all on the show. But I don't know, man. It's just what I'm into right now.
There you go. You got to try something new.
So what is your favorite thing to grill, Troy?
Oh man, I'm big on pork too. So we do a lot of pork chops and some pork loins and stuff like that. So I'd probably eat pork every day if I could, but it gets a little old. So but yeah, we'll do pork, just your basics: pork, chicken, steak. Nothing crazy. I'm pretty busy, and I think that stuff's easy to do and get done quick.
So, Troy, you have lots of stuff going on, man. I know you say you're busy. You're building a bunch of cool cars. You're on a YouTube series right now. You are the defending Barrett Jackson Cup champion. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's amazing. So we're talking to the reigning champ.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so we did that last year and walked away with the Barrett Jackson Cup on that deal. And we've got a lot more coming this year. We've got 6 projects currently in motion, everything from just getting started to finished up, running, driving, about ready to send out the door, and everything in between. We're shooting a YouTube series for Castrol Motor Oil and Barrett Jackson. That's, the pilot's launched, and I believe episode 2 will come out next Tuesday. So we're doing that. I am in the process right now of launching another company that's just aftermarket hot rod muscle car parts line. We've been doing it for a couple of years, and just kind of branching out into a completely different business with the model, and going to grow and expand that. So yeah, there's a lot going on over here.
I mean, that's big news. So you are finally, I know last time I talked to you, you were thinking about breaking out and doing that. So you're actually, your company before well, it's still your company, is BBT Fabrications, and you are known for not just building amazing hot rods, but you're known for actually custom fabricating car parts that look incredible. And so now you're saying you've got a second company that you're going to be doing to sell those parts to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I finally got smart. For the last 12, 15 years, we've been building these cars and doing all these one-off parts. And then you go and someone calls and says, hey, can you sell me that mirror? Can you sell me this or that? And it was always, that was one-off built for that car. And, a couple years ago, we started kind of trying to develop some production parts that we could repeat, machine, refabricate, whatever. And so for about a year now, we've been doing that just kind of almost as a side hustle through BBT Fabrications. And we're about to launch the new company here in July that's going to specifically be that. And so you'll be able to buy a lot of the parts that we use on our high end builds through that company. That company is going to be called Intech Auto.
And are you going to be just offering parts, just like internet for sale? You just got a store online, or do people need to call you up and custom order things?
No, so we'll have an online store. Again, everything's going to release in July, the first year of July. And so we'll have an online website where you can go right on and order everything online. Of course, you can call in and order it that way too. But it seems like most people these days are just going to place that order right there online on the website.
So if somebody is a novice and they don't know exactly what we're talking about, what does it mean when you fabricate a car part? What do you have to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess a little bit of a background is what we do is at BBT Fabrications is build. I would call them high end hot rods, muscle cars, classic cars, resto mods.
Mm.
A lot of people call them resto mods. So we'll take a older muscle car, 60s muscle car, and update it with newer suspension, brakes, modern engine, drivetrain, amenities, and then do some styling cues too. So there's a lot of features on those older cars, especially in the 60s muscle car era, that just weren't very good. So we've tried to make some things that aesthetically look better, but also perform better and solve an issue of, one of the big things that we've done is mirrors. There's never really been anything out there that's aesthetically pleasing and works. That's the big key, is that you can actually use it, and it's a side mirror that mounts on the side of the car and you can actually see out of them. Most of the mirrors, especially for the passenger side, for whatever reason, you can never see anything out of the passenger side mirror. So we've solved that problem. We've got three different lines of mirrors for multiple different vehicles that you can bolt on and actually see out of.
Yeah, it's so true because I always just thought it was me when I'd get in like a classic 60s era Camaro and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. And you just end up kind of just looking back, to see where you got to go because you can't, the mirror is worthless, right? And you make some badass mirrors and the handles, the door handles that you make too. You've got like a couple of different ones that I've seen and they are so killer, man. The styling that you use is a very modern kind of like blocky and hard edges and things. And it's just really, really cool to see something modern like that you throw on these beautiful retro cars.
That's kind of been our claim to fame, is taking these older classic cars and really trying to modernize them. When people think about driving a classic car, they think about driving a classic car, and it's just not enjoyable compared to a modern car that you get in and things that you don't think of. So what we're trying to do is make it to where you can get in these classic cars and drive them across country. I mean, we've done it. Last year we did 2,300 miles over the course of 7 days on a road tour, and three of the cars that we built.
Wow.
So we took a customer car and well, they're all customer cars, but one of them just happens to be a good friend of mine. And we took all these cars out and ran them across country. So the goal here is to make them enjoyable to drive, and just as exciting to get in, and just as comfortable as your modern car.
Yeah, I don't think the average person, if they're not a car guy, I don't think the average person really understands just how uncomfortable a stock old car can be to drive if you're used to driving a modern car. You throw like a Gen Z person in a so an old car with a carburetor and drum brakes and no power steering, and they're going to be like, what the hell, right? They're
Right.
just not going to. These things look so cool, and people, they're so romantically revered by people today that there's this assumption that they're these pristine power machines, and they really weren't. I mean, they were powerful and they were great for their day, but a lot of what people see and associate with those cars today are what people are doing with them today, not what they were originally.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's funny because around here you always get that old boy that said, back in the day, this was the fastest thing around, and that thing would blow the doors off anything, and then it's got like 300 horsepower or something small like that, and it's like, wow, we're building cars that got 900 horsepower on a daily basis. I can't imagine driving something, my pickup truck has more than that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's true, and for the longest time, a lot of people wouldn't drive these old cars, just because they weren't something that was reliable enough to get in. You know, Obviously in the early days when they were built, they were, but as they've become classic and collectible, they haven't. And so I think over the past, 5 or so years, maybe a little bit longer, it's really become kind of mainstream to updating them and modernize them to make them to where they are enjoyable and they can be driven reliable.
Well, that used to be sacrilege, right? I mean, I'm gonna check our pork ribs while we're talking, but that used to be sacrilege, right? When I grew up, yeah, baby, look at that. I'm gonna glaze these bad boys while we're talking. So when I grew up and watched my dad and my uncles and his friends, restoring cars, there was it was, if you were supposed to take things back to stock, right? You were not supposed to um, mess with them, and you put sort of aftermarket things on there, and like there better be a really good reason for you doing so, because otherwise you're sort of screwing the car up, And at what point did that change? When did it become cool? The term resto mod is, I guess, relatively new. When did that happen? When people started doing things like that?
I would say it's been happening over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, and just becoming more and more popular. And you said it right, 15 years ago, for sure, without a doubt, if you took a 69 Camaro or a 70 Chevelle or something like that and you started modifying it, the value is just going down. The money was in the all original numbers matching restored car,
Yeah.
and it's slowly turned tables to where now there's a peak on what that numbers matching car is, and these resto mod cars is what they call them, resto mod, meaning that it's updated with a modern engine, drivetrain, typically suspension, brakes, wheels, tires. But these cars have, like, if you watch Barrett Jackson, which is probably the most well known collector car auction for muscle cars that there is, you've seen a turn where they're no longer it's no longer the numbers matching 70 Chevelle that's bringing the big money. It's the 70 Chevelle that has a supercharged LS motor with an aftermarket chassis and upgraded
Yes.
brakes and air conditioning and all that are bringing money. Or Corvettes. There was, this past year, there was a couple Corvettes, 60s era Corvettes that were done the same way. Resto mod. There was a aftermarket chassis, wheels, tires, brakes, suspension, all the modern amenities that brought, I think, close to $700,000. And that 5-10 years ago would just be unheard of. At that point, you were ruining the car if you were doing all of those things.
Yeah. I mean, who could pay 700 grand for a car with no air conditioning, or who would pay that? I guess, right?
Yeah, and now it's guys paying that kind of money for the type of stuff that we're building. So it's great for business. I'll tell you that much.
No, for sure. So let's talk Barrett Jackson. Barrett Jackson, as you said, one of I mean the premier car auction outfit. Been around a long time, but they also started doing these events like the Barrett Jackson Cup, which is a car builder competition, which you've participated in. And I just wanted to point out there is a sound in the background of Troy's interview here, And in case anybody doubts that he makes badass cars, that is the sound of cars being made behind him. Like I can hear saws whirring, and it just gives this air of authenticity and elite car, knowledge. The fact that you can hear the cars being assembled behind them. But when did you get into Barrett Jackson's the Cup part? How long is that? How long have you been in it? And I guess how long has that been going on?
They actually just brought it back. They used to do it. They had an auction out in Reno, Nevada, and they had it, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And they had at that time what they called the Barrett Jackson Cup, and what it was is a invite only show. They only invited 50 cars to come out and compete for that. Because the Barrett Jackson's big thing is the auction. So the show side of thing is just like an exhibition inside the auction. Um, and they had that for about 3 years out in Reno, Nevada, and it was a really big deal. Paid $20,000 to win, which, you know, in the big scheme of the thing on what the cars cost, that's very very small. However, most of these shows that we go to don't pay anything, or you might get a trophy or whatever, or a little bit of recognition, but most of them don't pay a dime. So, you know, there's a few that pay, but this one's by far the largest payout, and so that draws big money cars, big cars from around the country. So they stopped doing it in Reno when they canceled their auction there. And then they brought it back about 3 years ago in Scottsdale. And so it's always been like a premier high end. Everybody, if you're in this industry and you're building cars, you want to get invited to the Barrett Jackson Cup with a car that you've built to compete for that award. And so I think it's been going on now for 3 or 4 years in Scottsdale again, and it's drawing, the best cars, and it's really unique because a lot of the other shows, they categorize you based on the type of the car, whether it's a 30s era hot rod or a pickup truck or a muscle car or some big street cruiser. Versus the Barrett Jackson Cup is just it's wide open to anything. So you're going up against a bunch of different cars, and anything could take the crown.
And the criteria is like badass, right? What's badass is the criteria.
I mean, every one of these top 50 cars are going to be very well done. They're nationally recognized cars across the country, so it's not just your local car show.
So let's talk about the 69 Firebird that you won with last year. I'm so fascinated by that. I've always been a Pontiac guy. And that's, I've always been a GM guy, but a Pontiacs, I don't know, man, they're so interesting. And the car that you built, what an incredible car, what an incredible project this was. Tell us about how you came up with the idea to do that one and then how you executed on it.
Yeah, so that car was actually built for a really good customer of ours out of Texas. Brad Sather is his name. And he approached us because we had built another 69 Pontiac Firebird back in 2013 that was actually on the cover of Hot Rod magazine.
Wow.
And a friend of his just happened to be going through the grocery store. This was back when you bought magazines in the grocery store or whatever, and saw that car on the cover of this magazine, picked it up, and got a hold of Brad and was wondering if that was his car, because he had a 69 Pontiac Firebird that he was building as well. And Brad of course said, no, it's not mine, and but re-sparked his interest in building his car. And so he actually reached out to us about building him a car, of course similar to the one we had built already. And I don't like to do the same thing twice. So I told him, yeah, we'll build another 69 Firebird. However, I'd like to, expand on that one, go bigger and better, and do a bunch of different things. And, he was all game for that. He had bigger plans already before we even had the conversation. So that's kind of how that got started. And it kind of spiraled from there. He, his trade is he owns a machine shop, a high precision machine shop, and so he wanted to have tons of machine parts on the car. A bunch of one-off things: headlights, taillights, wheels, grills, just bunches and bunches of parts. And so he kind of was going down this path that we wanted to go anyways with the car, as far as taking it to the next level from the one that we had previously done. And so it just worked out fantastic for us. A couple of the stipulations with the car were, he wants to go 200 miles an hour in the 69 Pontiac Firebird. So this was, I don't know, we started on the car in, I think, 2016. So this is
Oh my gosh.
a while ago. And I'm like thinking to myself, man, that's 200 miles an hour in a 69 Firebird. Well, yeah, we'll do it, sure. We'll figure it out. And that's what we did. So
Unbelievable.
it was it wasn't a full-time 5-year solid build, but it was, I mean, there's probably 8,000 hours in that car.
8,000 hours.
Yeah, yeah,
8,000 hours.
yeah. So if you can imagine spending 8,000 hours on a car, that's what you're gonna get. So every panel on the car, quarter panels, door skins, fenders, hood, every panel on the car is either A, modified, or B, built from scratch. So the entire front end of the car was completely built from scratch. The hood was built from scratch. The engine bay. I mean, it's just, you know, when you're fabricating everything from flat sheet of aluminum or steel, the time really adds up. So,
Yeah.
and then there's, on top of that, it's the all the features to allow the car to run 200 mile an hour. So we've actually taken the car out to the standing mile, and the car, so far, the top speed we reached with the car is about 203 miles an hour.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so we did 199.67 in the car before he crossed the mile, and then he drove through the mile, and the top speed was 203 before he let out. So we've ran it twice now. We're going to be going back in October to run it. So that's, the ultimate. The car also won Street Machine of the Year for Good Guys. So that ultimately helped us secure that award too, because it's not only a nice show car, but it's proven to be able to perform as well.
That's incredible, man. I mean, that's such a. So, at what point in the conversation with that customer did the idea of the Barrett Jackson Cup come up? So he approaches you out building this incredible car, and then at some point, was it at the outset like, hey man, I want to build this thing and let's put it in some competitions, or was it kind of as it got going, that idea emerged?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. Initially, when we started, because we do a lot of shows with the cars that we built. We tour around on the national show circuit. Good Guys Riding Custom's a big one. They have like 20 shows across the country, and we usually hit two, three of their shows every year. And so I think we, as well as he, had intentions of doing that from day one. I don't think either of us really thought that it was gonna you know be what it was, just because we were trying to do, we're trying to basically build a race car and a show car in one, and that's, really difficult to do.
Yeah.
But, the car did so well when we started showing it, that we won Good Guys Street Machine of the Year with the car. And then we did another show in Tennessee called the Triple Crown of Rotting, and they give away what they consider their Street Machine of the Year, and we won that too. And by winning that, we got the invite to do the Barrett Jackson Cup, and it was just, like, well, this is really a show car type award, and we've got a car that we've taken out twice now and ran 200 miles an hour in it, and so it's got a little bit of road rash and whatnot to it. So we're like, well, let's go do it, but I don't think we have any chance of winning it. And so, we, of course, cleaned the car and polished it all up and everything, and got out there, and got in the top five, and I was just ecstatic to be there. And at that point, I thought there's no way that we're going to win. And, they pull all five cars up onto the auction block bidding stage in Barrett Jackson. And it's on live national television. And, we're the winner. So it was a really cool experience. Not unexpected, is what I would say. So that made it that much better.
Unbelievable. What an incredible story. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about how you got into the hot rod business and how you, I mean, we just wake up and we see this guy building incredible cars, these BBT. I mean, where did this come from? Have you always built cars your whole life? Is this like a family thing? How did you get into this?
I was lucky enough as a kid to have a dad and a grandfather that were into classic cars and always had something around. I mean, I remember a '56 Ford pickup, lots of trucks, lots of classic trucks, whether it be, Chevy pickups, whatever. In high school, well, it might have been even before I was in high school. My dad got a '66 Chevelle, which he still has to this day. We did a lot of work on that, changed the engine, transmission, suspension, brakes, and eventually painted it. And the same thing, my grandpa had a '46 Chevy Coupe as well, and that, got fully restored and hot rodded out. So, it was kind of in my blood already. And then in high school, I turned 16 and, I got a project truck, needed painted, needed to get up and running. And so I did that with my dad and my grandpa, and we were real close doing that stuff. So it was kind of always in my blood. And right out of high school, my dad had a construction company, and so I started working at the construction company during the day and going to school at night at the local community college. And then I had my pickup truck, and I had some buddies that were into cars, and we just played with our cars and modified them and whatever. And one of my buddies said, hey, we should rent a little shop, and we'll split it. I think there was four of us at the time. We'll split it four ways, and that'll be a place where we can all kind of hang out and work on our cars. And we did that, and then the next thing we're doing little side projects for this buddy or that buddy, and that turned into being there for a little over a year. And I realized, man, I really like working on cars and making modifications to these cars or trucks or whatever. And so that kind of spiraled into this side job and that side job, to where I was spending every night and every weekend in this little shop tinkering, making a little bit of side money, but just more so just doing it out of passion. And got to the point where I realized, man, I do not want to go to class tonight. I want to stay here in the shop and work, and that's what I would do. And
I finally just realized that school wasn't for me, college wasn't for me, just because my passion was somewhere else. And so I stopped. The second semester came around, I didn't sign up for school, and I did my day job during the day at my dad's construction company, and then in nights and weekends I was steady on my little side garage. And it went on that way for probably another year. I think we went from four guys that were renting the shop down to three guys, down to two guys. And then at that point it was like, hey, I need to figure out how to make this work as a full-time gig, because I had so much work lined up to where I was there, every night after work. I'd get off work at about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was in that shop till midnight every night, and then all
Wow.
day every weekend. Working for the construction company. If it rained, we weren't working, so I was praying for rain every single day. And it just got to the point where I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And so I had that hard conversation with my dad, who, of course, wanted me to take on the family business. That's not what I wanted to do. And, I think that was a little tough on him. But, I think today he's probably my biggest supporter in all of this. So it was probably the right decision. And at the time, it was a little rough, and we kind of butted heads a little bit. But within 6 months, he came around, and we had a great relationship again. But yeah, so that spiraled into having my own shop, and now I'm like, oh, here we are. I've just jumped off the deep end, and I hope I can make enough money to pay rent and pay all my bills. And I didn't, at the time, I was young. I didn't have many bills, so it was the perfect timing to do it. And I just got lucky, man. I was just doing little odds and ends side projects, and I had a customer come through the door that had been through another local shop and kind of ran through the cleaners on a project. And I was doing a lot of chassis and suspension and exhaust work at the time, and he, said, "Well, hey, can you take my chassis and straighten it out, make sure everything's good, mount the engine, transmission, do the exhaust?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so it was my first real customer, a guy that could actually afford to do this and see it through to the end. And it was a 31 Ford, and so
Oh wow.
we got the chassis all done for him and did the mounted the engine, reworked some of the suspension, reworked some of the chassis, did the exhaust, got it all good for him. And then he comes in, he's like, "Well, hey, I need the body done. Do you know anybody that can do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I love to do the body." And so, you know, he was like, "Okay, I'll bring it by next week." And the next thing you know, we're body working, painting the car, doing the upholstery and everything. And so that was probably about a year and a half long project. And by the end of it, I had a full time employee that was working with me as well. And so I owe a lot of my success to that guy that gave me the opportunity to get my career started and to build a car. Um, and so he was so happy with that car because he had been, you know, raked over the coals with another shop to where he wanted to do another car. And so we did. And this time around, it was kind of, I wouldn't say a free for all, like as far as like me making all the decisions, but I was able to make a lot of decisions and do a lot of things the way I wanted to do them, in the style that we wanted to build the car versus the first car was, all him and him gaining all the trust in me. So me basically, doing everything he wanted to do. And so we did that and gained his trust. And so on car number two, he's like, "Well, what would you do with it?" And it just so happens to be that it was the 69 Firebird that we did that landed
Oh
our customer Brad that we did the other 69 Firebird for.
yeah.
So the first 69 Firebird, it was a gray car. We finished it in 2013, started it in late 2010, finished it in spring of 2013. So it was, a 2.5 year build. But it was an opportunity for me to do exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to build a car and to showcase what we could do. And so I would say that's the car that really kickstarted my career. We brought that car out and debuted it at a show in Columbus, Ohio called Good Guys Ride and Custom, and they have an award there called Street Machine of the Year. And we brought that car out, which is like, because this was like, man, this is the best we can do with what we've got. And, this is our best work. Let's go show it off at one of the biggest shows around. And that's what we did. And, that car made the top 5 finalists for Street Machine of the Year that year. And, we got invited to do a bunch of different things with that car, including a road tour from San Francisco, California, to Dallas, Texas. And during that road tour, Hot Rod Magazine met up with us and believe it or not, Bakersfield, California.
Come
And
on.
we did the photo shoot of that car, and it ended up on cover of Hot Rod Magazine. And 5 years later, 3 years later, whatever it was, we ended up landing another customer off that car and that magazine feature. So it really did a lot for us. But yeah, that's really how everything started and how we kind of got to where we are now.
That's amazing. Well, while you were telling that story, I took the country ribs, country style pork ribs off the grill. And I wish I could share this with you, Troy, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My mouth's over here watering. You got the whiskey and the pork, and I'm just over here drinking my water in my office.
I definitely got close to overcooking those because I was so enthralled in the story that I forgot that I was cooking something. But gosh, dang, man. Okay. Just, tender pork. I could have marinated it. I didn't do it because I was lazy. I didn't have a chance. Come on. We're all busy. But glaze these bad boys. Hit them with the pecan rub. Lord have mercy. It's sweet. It's tender. Oh my gosh. It's sweet. It's sweet like those cars you're building, baby. Come on.
Can't overdo that pork.
you're being chronicled. What's the YouTube series called?
Yeah, it's called Path Performance. It's on Castrol Motor Oil's YouTube channel. So if you just go to YouTube, you can type in Path to Performance, and it should pop right up.
So I've watched every episode that's released so far. Not only you, a couple of other friends are in that show. I'm gonna see if I can have everybody from that competition in here and see how much smack I can get you guys to talk about each other in the show. So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to talk some high level shit to your competitors here. Throw them down. Who's of all the people you are competing against, which one of them are you the least worried about?
Oh man. And that's the cool thing about this is the four shops that they're documenting on this process are all good friends. We're all close, but we're all close enough to talk a lot of shit to each other. So that's kind of going to make it fun as we go through. But man, I'll tell you what. I wouldn't say I'm not worried about any of them. I'm worried about all of them. They all are top-notch guys, and that's why we're all in this, because we're all kind of, at the peak of our game right now, and it's anybody's game. I mean, I think we're all bringing something totally different to the table, to where, it's just going to come down to what the judges like in the end. So it'll be interesting. You got a 4-wheel drive truck. You got a Nova that's track driven race car. You got a twin turbo 61 Impala Biscayne that's heavily street driven, maybe a little track, and then we got the 59 Impala that we're building that's just a big cruiser that's just hammered down on the ground. So you got a little bit of everything, for something for anybody.
You're worried about all. So I gave you an opportunity to just bury one of them, and you didn't take it. 59 Impala. Is that what you said?
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, is it top secret what you're doing to it, or can you talk about it?
No. Yeah, we can talk about it. I mean, that's one of the things that I've always been a firm believer in. I mean, a lot of these guys that do this stuff are so secretive about what they do, and they won't tell anybody how they do things. And man, at the end of the day, it's just hard work, right? It's just passionate, hard work. And it takes a lot. I told you that other car was, we had 8,000 hours into it. So, I mean, I'm willing to put in the work. So
come on.
The only way to beat us is if you're willing to put in more work than us.
Now we're talking. We're getting dangerously close to shit talk. Let's go.
We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I mean, down to how we do it and what we're doing, and I'll tell you how to do it if you want to do it. Yeah, it's wide open. It's a pretty cool car. The car we're
trying to ball at your level.
The car that we're doing is, man, it's tastefully modified in an extreme level. So what I mean by that is there is a lot of things done to this car that probably most people wouldn't recognize unless you really know the car. Down to, we've changed all the seals for all the windows to where it uses a seal out of a completely different car. Not only because it functions better, but aesthetically it's a lot more pleasing. So things like that, trim, we're running electric brakes underneath the dash. The brake rotors themselves are 16 inches in diameter, which, the brake rotors are the same size as a lot of the cars driving down the road today's wheels are. So a lot of things going into this car that are real unique, and then a lot of custom touches, a lot of machine parts, a lot of one-off parts that we're designing specifically for the car, and then a lot of handmade, fabricated parts. So it's really going to be on a level of detail very similar to the car that we had at the Barrett-Jackson Cup with last year. It's just a completely different car. Whereas the car last year was a street machine, powerhouse, 200 mile an hour, nice car. This one's going to be more of a, have all the same details and have all the same work. But it's a 17-foot long land yacht. So it's just, it'll be a car that you're going to want to jump in and drive across country. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, I don't want to quote you on this, but was Paul and Joe at Dutch Boys? Did you or did you not say that those are the guys that you were the least worried about?
Are those guys the ones that we're least worried about?
Least worried about. They're not. They're going to lay an egg. You're worried about the other guys, but not them. Are you on record saying those are your lead? You're not worried about them. You see, I'm trying to start some shit here. I'm trying to seed. I'm trying to get. I love Paul and Joe, and no, those dudes. Whatever they build, it's going to be incredible, and it's going to be painted badass like you couldn't believe. But I'm just trying to get. I'm trying to get a little bit of fire here, and you're not swinging at it. You're being too diplomatic.
I'll throw a swing out there. This is funny that you're doing this because the production crew that comes here and films us, that's exactly what he's trying to get the shit stirred real good. I just don't want to put my foot in my mouth, Here's the shit talking I'll do. All these other guys are painting their cars. We're so proud of the craftsmanship that goes into the metalwork of our cars. We're bringing our car to Barrett Jackson and bare metal.
No, that's true? You're doing bare metal?
That's true. So there'll be no paint on the car. So you're going to see it in raw form. Paul and Joe can spread the body filler and make it shiny and cover it all up, and we're going to expose it all.
So, oh my God. All right. It's been thrown out. So bare metal, you're going old dirty bastard. You like it raw. Okay. It's going to the show, bare metal. Man, that's going to be incredible. How do you so when you go bare metal like that, how do you keep that clean looking? How do you keep this just go into, for the uninitiated, bare metal means literally no paint on it, right? It's just going to be like a steel looking airplane kind of thing. So how do you keep that from rusting, from corroding? How do you keep that from getting little nicks on it that you can now see for sure? Like, do you just have to put like a bubble wrap around that thing when you move it around to make sure you don't scratch it or do anything crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of maintenance. So the car won't stay bare metal forever. It will get painted. However, we want to take it to the Barrett Jackson Cup in raw metal to showcase our quality of what's underneath the paint, So it's pretty easy to hide shitty metal work underneath bodywork and paint. And so we want to make sure that everybody knows that what we're putting out here is high quality stuff down to the bones. But yeah, it's a lot of work because there is nothing that you can do to prevent it from rusting. People can touch it. I mean, different people have different oils coming out of their skins and they can touch it, and 2 hours later it's rusting. So it's something that you got to kind of stay on top of, keep it clean. There's an oil that we use. It's a silicone-free oil. So it's paint friendly, that we'll put on the body that kind of helps protect it.
Wow.
Somewhat, it's still, a corroding metal that's in its raw form. So yeah, and for anybody listening that doesn't understand quite what bare metal means or what that kind of is when we get these cars, we strip them down. So we have them media blasted or dipped, and it pulls all the paint off of the car, and it comes down to raw metal, and then that's when we do all of our sheet metal work over the top of that. So we'll start with flat sheets and shape it to make the hood or engine bay panels, and then at some point that gets primered, and then body filler would go over that, which is, like a putty that you sand to straighten everything. And then it's primered again and block sanded straight and then finally painted. So we won't have any of that. So we're just going to be in that raw form. But it really showcases the quality of the work that's underneath it.
So, Troy, this is a question that I've been wanting to ask you going into the show. I wanted to ask you because it's a philosophical question and it was only really valid or only really coming up in the last couple of years, as we talked about earlier, when it used to be everything's got to go back to numbers matching stock, and now you've got the kind of the resto mod movement and let's pro touring, let's make everything better. When you're looking at a car, like when you're looking at your 60s era Firebird, or you're looking at what you're doing now, how do you decide what pieces of a car are okay to modify, and what pieces of a car you have to preserve because to get rid of it would be sacrilege to what that car stands for?
That's a very controversial topic there, because there's a lot of people that don't like the modifications, and they'll find something wrong with it, and so there's got to be some sort of a balance. I feel like certain cars, in my opinion, need a lot less. They were right. They were so close to being right, or they were right when they were made, to where you don't have to really do a whole lot. You just got to get the stance right, because that's the biggest thing with all these old cars, is they sat high and the wheels were sucked way in. So getting the stance and the wheel and tire combo right is key, to all of them, to every single one of them. But then you get into like the body modifications, and some cars need a lot less, and some cars have a lot to desire, and those are the ones that we tend to modify more. There's a lot of these cars have really iconic features, that you don't want to change. So like that 69 Pontiac Firebird, that we did, we reworked the front end and tried to modernize it in a way that still looked like a 69 Firebird, but kind of got rid of all of the, beaky, ugliness of the car.
Yeah.
But then there's certain aspects like body lines going down the side of the car, that we changed, or sorry, that we kept exactly the same. The roof line of the car, kept that the same, so that the silhouette of the car kind of looked the same, but took some of the details and changed those. The 59 Impala that we're doing, those cars were sexy, from the day they were made. So really the things that we're doing on it are major work, but minor changes, just to kind of clean up lines and make things fit better, and move this, where this fender splits from the rocker, move it from here to over here, and just extend some things a little bit here. We extended the rockers so they cover the frame, so you can't see it from the back or from the side view, and drop the quarters down a little bit lower in the back so you can't see the fuel tank. Just little things like that, if you didn't know we did it, you would never know. And that's kind of the goal behind it, is to make it look like that's the way it should have, was from the factory, and should have been from the factory. So, that's with everything, you have an opinion, and somebody's opinion is always completely different than yours on these cars. And so you've got people that will come, especially when you get into like modernizing them and heavily modifying cars, you'll have people that just absolutely love everything that you do, and then you'll have the other guy on the other hand that's just, oh, you ruined that car. So it comes down to an opinion at a certain point in time as far as the styling cues go. But that's the fun part about it, because if everybody wanted the same thing, we'd have a bunch of Teslas out here.
Well, I mean, I feel like what you just said that's such an art, right? It's such an art to be able to look at a car and decipher what parts of it make it iconic and what parts of it need improvement. It's just so interesting to me to watch people do that, and you do it as good as anybody in the country. So, congrats on everything you've done up to this point. Good luck, and you keep swinging the axe, man. You're back in the Thunderdome, trying to build another incredible car at Barrett-Jackson. I will, to reiterate what you said earlier, you're going to wipe the mat with everybody. I think that's what you said, and then nobody stood a chance. Let the record show. That's what he said. And it's so exciting to have you here. Everybody needs to go make sure they check out the YouTube series. One more time, what was it called?
It's Path to Performance.
It's Path to Performance. Go check it out on YouTube. And if you would like to have some amazing parts on your car like Troy makes, Troy, what's the name of the website that they can go to, and when is that website open?
It's going to be Intech Auto. Auto is spelled O-T-T-O. So INTEKOTTO.com. And we're going to be launching July 1st.
So it's called Path to Performance. Make sure you check that out on YouTube. You're going to watch Troy and all of these subpar competitors that he's been talking about competing against him for the Barrett-Jackson Cup. He's the defending champ. Troy, thank you so much for being here. Intech Auto will be available in July, where you can find some of his amazing car parts. I'm going to see if I can get some for my 72 Blazer. I need some new handles, baby, and I know Troy makes some nice ones, so we're going to we're going to get it there. Troy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, and it's really an honor to be on your show, and I'm looking forward to listening to more episodes in the future.
Well, it's good to have you here, man. And folks, if you heard something on this episode that was valuable, please make sure that you tell a friend about it. Like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and find us on social media. We're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook and Instagram. I think we're still on Friendster. Maybe we're on Napster. I don't know. Find us wherever we are on the internet and subscribe. We're so excited to have you guys. We see the community building, and we'll see you next time on Slow Smoke Business.